Pico was a small penguin with shiny black feathers and a white belly. He lived in a cold, snowy land where the ice stretched as far as the eye could see. The ocean was deep and blue, and giant icebergs floated on the water like tiny frozen islands. Pico loved his home, but there was one problem: he was scared of swimming. All the other young penguins dived into the water, splashing and playing. They chased fish, glided through the waves, and popped up laughing, but Pico always stayed on the ice. The ocean looked too big, too deep, too cold. His older sister, Tali, was the best swimmer of all. She flipped, twirled, and jumped out of the water like a fish. "Come on, Pico," she called. "The water is fun." Pico shook his head. "I don't think I can." Tali waddled over and patted his back. "You're a penguin. Penguins swim. One day you'll love it." But Pico wasn't sure. The ice breaks one morning. Pico woke up to the sound of cracking ice. Crack! Snap! The iceberg he was standing on broke away from the land. Pico yelped as the piece of ice floated into the ocean. It rocked gently at first, then began drifting farther and farther from home. Tali, their parents, and all the other penguins stood on the shore, watching. "Jump into the water, Pico. Swim back," Tali shouted. But Pico froze. His little feet gripped the ice. He was too scared. The ice floated farther. Soon, his family was just a tiny blur in the distance. The cold wind howled, and the waves splashed against the ice. Pico was alone. Lost at sea for a long time, Pico just sat on the floating ice, shivering. "What do I do?" he whispered. Then he heard a voice. "Why are you sitting there?" Pico turned and saw a seal swimming nearby. She had shiny gray fur and big round eyes. "I'm scared of swimming," Pico admitted. The seal tilted her head. "But you're a penguin. Penguins swim." "I know," Pico sighed, "but I never learned." The seal smiled. "Well, today's the perfect day to start. You won't get home sitting on that ice forever." Pico looked down at the water. It was deep and dark. His heart pounded. "I can't," he whispered. "You don't have to be perfect," the seal said. "Just try." The first splash, Pico took a deep breath. He shuffled to the edge of the ice. His toes touched the water. It was freezing. He took another deep breath. 1, 2, 3, splash. Pico hit the water and flailed his wings. He kicked his feet, trying to stay up. Water splashed everywhere. "Help!" he yelped. "Keep paddling," the seal encouraged. "You're doing it." Pico gasped and kicked harder. His wings pushed against the water, and soon he wasn't sinking, he was floating. A tiny smile crept onto his face. He was swimming. The journey home. The seal swam beside him, guiding him through the waves. "See? You're a natural." Pico wasn't sure about that, but he kept going. They passed floating icebergs, dodged playful fish, and even saw a whale in the distance. At first, Pico got tired easily, but the more he swam, the easier it became. His little flippers moved faster, and soon he wasn't just swimming, he was gliding through the water. And then there it was. Pico could see the land ahead. His family was waiting on the shore, flapping their wings and calling his name. Excitement bubbled inside him. He kicked harder, moving faster than ever before. He jumped out of the water just like his sister did. With one last splash, he reached the shore and flopped onto the ice, breathing hard but smiling wide. A penguin who swims Tali ran up and hugged him. "Pico, you did it." Pico giggled. "I really did." His parents nuzzled him proudly. "We knew you could." Pico looked back at the ocean. It didn't seem as scary anymore. In fact, it looked fun. He turned to the seal. "Thank you for helping me." The seal winked. "Any time, little penguin." With that, she dived back into the water and disappeared. From that day on, Pico was no longer the penguin who stayed on the ice. He was Pico the swimmer, gliding through the ocean with his friends. And he never feared the water again. The end.